Hey, good evening, everybody, to Good Sports The Next Generation. I'm Dan Craven with Dwayne Kohler on my right.
Dan?
And DJ Craven on my left. Boy, I'll tell you what, DJ, we were talking about this on the way. Maybe, Dwayne, you can figure out. I can't remember when was the last time we had a show.
I think it was last May, I think.
Was it May?
It was May. It was, because we pulled that up.
Yeah.
It was May. So anyways, here we are. We're almost a full year out, but a lot of things have been going on, keeping us in the dark, so to speak. But we're back, so I bet everybody's excited. We got a good show on hand tonight. We got a special guest coming in later, Matt Barrett, who's the president of the CCYHA hockey board here at the Mark, and that should be an entertaining thing, and just kind of learn what's going on with the hockey program. And then we got some other stuff we're going to be talking about. We got some national headlines that I want to kind of spur some interest with the boys here. We're going to keep that a secret. And then we got at the end, after we talked to Matt, we're going to got some local stuff to hone in on, and then if we have some time, we might have something crazy and wild. So that's basically it right now, and I'll tell you what, we're just going to forget the first break. We're just going to spin right into it because I know people are on the edge of their seats. Okay, from a national outlook, it's good to know about national outlook, and we're going to hit it off right off the bat, right away. We're going to start with the Major League Baseball lockout. I know. DJ, what's your thoughts on that?
That's the first time I even heard. I didn't even know they were in a lockout.
Yeah, they're locked out.
Are they really?
No spring, no pitchers and catchers going anywhere.
And what's the major problem? What's the root of the big cause? Do we have any idea?
I'm going to guess it's money.
Yeah.
Dwayne, do you know?
I don't know. I have family members who live real close to Bradenton, and all of a sudden, they just got their winter place down there, moved down there. Nothing. No. I mean, I think they were looking forward to getting to some of the preseason stuff, and so
There's nobody doing anything.
It's like totally shut down.
Yeah, totally shut down.
So,
Just real quick on that, just to continue on it. I mean, Major League Baseball, just to think about it, and again, I know that obviously we're going to talk a lot of hockey here later on, and obviously we're a little pro hockey here maybe, but obviously you've got basketball, you've got football, extremely popular, and then hockey's somewhere in there. But it just feels like baseball has just completely gone off the reservation in popularity at all. I mean, I think if you were to say who are the 5 top Major League Baseball players, people might be able to name their names, but I bet they couldn't tell you who they look like if they walked in the rooms. And that doesn't happen in football and basketball.
I tend to agree with you. I do for some reason, and I don't know why. But I agree. It seems like of the major sport. Now you do have your fanatic fans out there, like you do for everything else. But for the most part, I mean, if you just sit around and listen to a bunch of people talk, it's football or hockey or maybe even basketball or I'm gonna go hunting, I'm gonna kill a big deer or something.
Crawford County Outdoors.
Crawford County. I don't know if they're. Yeah, I agree with you, DJ. That's a good observation. And the only thing that I can say about it is the Pirates are not going to be in last place by the second game of the season. They're going to be right up there with everybody else. God bless their souls. Anyways, yeah, so that's a major deal. This was brought to my attention today, and I only bring it up today because it just seems a little squirrely to me. You probably didn't hear about this, so that's why I'm going to bring it up. Last night, Michigan is playing. Now, I shouldn't say last night. Sometime in the past, because I'm not sure when this airs, a couple days ago. Michigan is playing Wisconsin in basketball. And I don't know where they're at, home or away. I saw the pictures. Looks like Michigan's got blue shirts on. That mean they might have been in Madison. I don't know that matters. Wisconsin is leading by 15 points. And with 15 seconds left, they call a timeout. Okay? So they can apparently get to, for whatever reason. Didn't go over real well with Juwan Howard from Michigan. So at the end of the game, apparently during the handshake line, I think he was respectful, but kind of kind of deferred himself, not the way I understand the story, away from the Wisconsin coach. But the Wisconsin coach pursues it and kind of wants to get involved, and I don't know if there's a little nudging involved. To which way I understand it, a little more than a face wash to the Wisconsin coach, to the tune of $40,000 and a 5-game suspension.
Oh, jeez.
Now here's my point. You, as an adult, as a coach, you obviously know the reason why he doesn't want to shake your hand is because he's mad, because he feels like you're embarrassing him. So the best thing to do is what? Walk away.
Yeah.
But apparently, from what I understand, so the guy, he's kind of like pushed into it, and he gets a $40,000, 5-game suspension for what, I was kind of like a bear.
It wasn't really a punch. It was more.
So you're aware of
I
this?
saw it. I saw it on.
I saw the video actually today too. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
good.
It's one of those things that's like, okay, you're gonna win, you're gonna lose. It's like, what's the point of having a fist fight after the,
Right.
after the game's over? What's that gonna help? How's
Right.
it gonna help anything? That's not gonna help anything at all. It's gonna make it worse.
So am I right in saying the Wisconsin coach kind of pushed the issue? No.
Yeah, I think so.
But then this guy gets. So what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, I guess obviously emotions ran a little high.
Yeah.
We're getting beat. He certainly wasn't feeling the greatest. But, there also is at the same time, now, what did he do? My question that I didn't know was
Yeah.
what does the Wisconsin coach then do afterwards? Yeah, he calls a timeout. Yeah, there's 15 seconds.
I don't know.
What if he's got a bunch of second, guys that are coming off the
point.
bench? They got a 15-second. You actually have an in-game situation where he might need those guys somewhere.
Good
And that
point.
this is the only time you actually have live. So again, what did he do with it? I don't know.
I don't either. Good
But,
point.
So there's certainly obviously two sides to every story.
That's right.
But to your point, yes, at some point somebody needed to be the better man and walk away, and it sounds like neither one of them did that.
No. All right, check that off. Check it off the list. Super Bowl's behind us. Super Bowl's behind us. My thought is that I was able to watch the game and not be on the edge of my seat. It was like. The only reason why maybe I wanted LA to win, because there were 2 Penn State players on. That was it. Other than that, I didn't have any ties to the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Scott and Hadley. But other than that, I really didn't have any ties to the game. And to be honest with you, LA wins they lose their first string tight end. They're down to their third string tight end. Then they lose the wide receiver guy in the first half.
Yeah, Beckham.
Thank you. And then they had a running back that was hurt too, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know about the running back,
Yeah.
but it certainly was interesting, and it was a nice game. I mean, I would say it was something like you said. We didn't really have a whole lot invested as kind of more our area fans outside of maybe just trying to root against Cincinnati because if you're a Steeler fan or even a Cleveland fan that they're in your division. But Cincinnati doesn't seem like they've been really relevant lately, so it didn't seem like there's really much of a rival there, at least recently.
Right.
And of course the Steelers have had their woes, but. I was able to just somewhat enjoy it. I think it was kind of nice. Matthew Stafford is who Matthew Stafford is, but he was on that team in Detroit that was terrible for how long, and to kind of make his story. It was a story one way nonetheless. But my biggest thought was that, the first penalty that they called that ended up being the melee penalties towards the end, it just felt a little bit fishy. I mean, it just felt a little bit.
I've heard that twice.
I mean, obviously, yeah, everybody, certainly, I'm not saying a conspiracy theory here or anything like that, but it felt a little bit like, well, we're just going to keep going here. It's almost like they just popped the top and let's just keep everything flowing because the first one was extremely questionable that they didn't call those type of plays earlier in the game.
Right.
It seemed like in the early part of the game they called no penalties.
Nothing.
There were some pretty obvious. I mean, ones that looked to me to be pretty
100%,
obvious.
especially that one touchdown where the wide receiver basically face washed the defensive back or safety or whoever it was, and then ends up going in.
That's what I'm thinking of. Is
Yeah.
that play?
100%. Yeah. So it's one of those as a player. You get the most mad about consistency. That's it doesn't matter what sport you are. It's most mad about consistency, and it just didn't feel consistent.
That's a good point. And that's an excellent point because I remember when I officiated, and I used to tell the young kids, and I wasn't the best, but I always told them, I said, these players, we're going to go out and referee this game, you and I, and these players for the first 2 shifts on the ice, which is going to, the first 2 shifts for the first 2 lines, they're going to feel what we're doing. Mm-hmm. They're going to feel like, are we talking, are we in position, are we chippy? And if you're letting something go early, you better let it go in the third period.
Right.
Because they're going to say, this is how the game's being played, and you're absolutely right on that. And so someone else told me the same thing about the flag issue, and I really couldn't comment on that. But I think overall it was an entertaining game for me. Personally, I didn't get anything out of the commercials.
I didn't even watch the commercials.
I don't think I did either. Got up and left the room whenever commercial came on.
They release them early. They're, it's not as big of a thing as much as I think it used to be.
And I'm not sure what happened at halftime, so we're just going to move on. Last thing I want to bring up, some national/local news. And I read this today, I think it was in the paper, that Ken O'Keefe, remember that name, Ken O'Keefe? Yeah. He was coach at Allegheny forever. Mm-hmm. And remember he went to Iowa? He retired formally today from Iowa after 18 years. In his history, Ken O'Keefe was, if everybody remembers, he was Allegheny, won the national championship, to which I attended, and with Dr. Denny Fenton down in Florida. But anyways, they played Lycoming. It was funny, they had two Pennsylvania teams have to play in Florida. And there were like Allegheny people and Lycoming people on the plane. It was really traumatic. Anyway, but from 1999 to 2011, he was the offensive coordinator, wide receiver coach, quarterback coach at Iowa. And we all remember he had that hiatus. He went to Miami, the Dolphins, from 11 to 16, and then came back from 17. I think he was an off field, or he was like one of those coaches that were up in the box or something. But he ended his career at Iowa, and good for Kenny, and the O'Keefe family, and I wonder how they're all doing, and so on and so forth. But I thought that was an interesting little. Did you know Kenny? Did you talk to Kenny?
I never met him, but when he was the coach at Allegheny, I remember very well. It's like Allegheny's football's always kind of stunk. But there was that stretch when they were really good during that stretch when he was the coach.
And I remember, of course, I ran into him with the little gritters playing the Russian things. He was kind of, he was involved in that a little bit too. And there was a couple times I was able to talk, just sit down with him.
Well, and his oldest kid was in my grade, and I was friends with him. I was over at his house plenty of times. Yeah, Brendan. Yeah, he was a goalie
out here for the CCYHA.
Yep. Yeah. However long, whatever year you said that was that he went to Iowa. That's as long as he was here. So
it's like Allegheny's
99.
Really good in every other sport, but then you get to football, and they stink in football, But not then. I mean, not during that stretch when he was there.
Yeah, they were pretty good. They were pretty good. All right, I'll tell you what. With that, we're going to take our first break. We'll be back. We're going to be back with Matt Barrett, who's the CCYHA board president. Interesting segment, probably a lot more sensical than what we just talked about. And then after that, we're going to go to our final segment, which is kind of local sports. So with that, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Good Sports The Next Generation. As I mentioned earlier, of course, we got our regular staff, the Wayne the far end, DJ Craven, and as I mentioned earlier, we got a very important guest here as we're filming at the Mark, and I'd like to welcome Matt Barrett. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but your official title is you're the president of the board of directors, Inuus Boonum.
Yes, that's exactly 100% correct. Yes.
Okay. So you're the president of the board. Now, just a little history from about you, Matt, with regards to, go back as far as you want to, where you're from, how'd you get interested in hockey, and why you wanted to be so involved on the board, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, honestly, I'm actually not originally from this area. I grew up in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. My sport was obviously cross country. No, actually, I was a football player. I have 0.0 skating ability or hockey ability. But we sort of ended up playing hockey with my son because it was a sport that I could get him on the ice. He was kind of contained. He couldn't wander off into the woods and play in the mud. He was on the ice, and then we had an excellent crew of coaches at the time. And he started when he was in 8U. So now he's a first-year 12U player, and I've been involved in a program ever since he hit the ice.
So you say you're from Greenville. There's not a lot of ice.
Greensburg.
Oh yeah, that's kind of mine. Oh yeah, that's around my neck of the woods originally. Yeah, so there you go. So we have it. So you got involved, and was it a shotgun wedding, or how'd you end up being a president?
Well, I don't know if you guys know Dan Foster and Ryan Konetsky, but they're 100% to blame. They roped me into being the team manager for the 8U Red Select team. It was a travel team we put together for the 8U kids. And from there, it kind of grew from there. They were having rotation out of the board, and they asked me to run, and I let them convince me that it was easy and that it would run itself. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And I'm in my 3rd year.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, now you guys can, obviously just fire any questions ahead of time. Now, I remember way back when DJ was growing up and I was on the board. How's the board broken up to now? I mean, I know there was so many board members, and you had a vice president, and you had a director of this and a director of that. So, kind of, what's the membership of the board look like?
Yeah, so CCYHA is run by a volunteer board of 9 officers and 8 directors at large. And we're actually currently in the middle of our elections for the 2022 year. The officers have 2-year terms, and the director of large will have a 1-year term. All of them, for the most part, are parents of players, with 1 or 2 non-parents. But it's an excellent group of people. Even the people that are exiting and the new people that are appear to be coming in. I can't be more excited about the energy and the interest with the number of people that wanted to run or are running for various positions. So very bright future in terms of leadership.
Okay, very good.
Matt,
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was in high school over there, and I was in 10th grade whenever this was being built and whenever it opened.
Don't date yourself too.
Well, I'm just telling the facts. I mean, that was a fact. That would have been
Covered
1970,
wagons pulled up.
1972, 3, whatever. This opened in 75, I think, is whenever the Rec Complex opened. A couple decades went by, and I was asked to be on the board, and I was for a number of years, and something else came up that I couldn't be on both things, and I've been back on the board here again for about 5 or 6 years or whatever. I'm curious about towns like Meadville don't typically have something like this. I'm curious about your opinion about that.
In terms of the mark, I've often said to Aaron Rekich, as you know, is that the mark to me is sort of like this hidden gem, this jewel of Northwest PA. No, not a lot of small towns have this type of, not only the facilities, but the leadership within the mark, and the collaboration that we have with Aaron and the staff. It really has been phenomenal because it has helped us grow our program. As we were talking earlier, it goes through cycles, and right now I would say overall hockey in this area is down a little bit from a numbers perspective. That's not to say that the quality isn't there or the level of play, because we've got some really good players and really great staff and coaching. But yes, in terms of the mark, it's a great facility. It's a great facility, and it's our home ice. We love the fact that it's definitely the coldest rink in the state of Pennsylvania, maybe on this side of the Mississippi, for all I know. But yeah, and people love our ice because it's hard.
I remember back when we first moved in, and before DJ even started, right when you started this game, we'd come to some Bulldog games, and before they actually boxed it in, there was actually snow that would drift underneath the fence by the stands.
So the building was what, built in 75, did you say?
It was finished in 75.
So if you go back, and CCYHA, Crawford County Youth Hockey, was formed in 1978. So shortly after the mark was established. So,
Yeah.
It makes sense. What about the kind of going specifically into CCYHA? What is the age range? I mean, you mentioned U12 and U8, but just maybe for everybody at home, what's kind of the age range that CCYHA kind of encumbers from kind of top and then maybe the levels in between?
So I'll kind of talk a little bit about overall hockey, and I'll tie in CCYHA. Because when you look at like the USA hockey model, the ADM model, the American Development model, the whole concept of that is that from cradle to grave, okay? And when you look at the programs, the idea is to get the kids out skating early and often. And so with the programs that are built here in Meadville and Crawford County is that the Mark has learn to skate type programs, and then they've partnered with the Penguins to have a Little Pens program, okay? And then there's Aaron, don't yell at me if I get this wrong, but I believe the Little Pens program can go up to the age of 9, so there's some overlap into our program, which is 8U. And the 8U program is for kids of 8 years old and under. And I believe the first year you can start it is the age of 5, if I remember correctly. And so our program there around the 8U, we have, what we do when we build our programs is we design them around that USA ADM model, which is built around age appropriate programs, training, skill sets, and things like that. And everything we try to do is to allow players to come in at different entry points and also different commitment levels and obviously different pricing points, okay? So what we've done with our 8U program, we were talking earlier, years ago when you were playing at 8U, you had hundreds of kids out there, 6 teams rolling. The fact of the matter is we don't have that kind of that type of membership, those type of numbers to have a true house program. So what we do with our 8U program is we break it up. We have a piece of it called the ADM, which is kind of the old house model, right? So you've got, let's say, roughly 40 to 50 kids on the ice. They break them up into different levels, and they'll do small ice games, and they'll do like 3-on-3s, that type of concept across ice. Then we have another level at the 8U level that is for the families or the kids that want to play a little higher level of competition and go outside of the association. And so we partner with PAL, which is the Pittsburgh Amateur Hockey League, for all of our divisions. But and then they will play in what is called a jamboree. And so basically a jamboree is when you've got the ice, cross ice, there's 3 games going at the same time. The kids are out there flying around playing. They don't, sometimes they sort of keep score. They don't keep. There's really a little emphasis on keeping score. It's out there. It's for fun, and it's a really great environment. They get to play teams all over Western Pennsylvania. They get roughly 10 games. We typically host 2 of those. And within that, they break those groups up into different levels. So you have a blue, a white, and a red, and they'll break them up based on skill sets. So we're actually hosting one here. We just hosted one here, and we're in the process of putting together a tournament that will take place here in a few weeks at the 8U level. We'll have 20 teams here in Crawford County.
Yeah, that's great. So that's the 8U, and then there's obviously
So
other
the
steps
next
going
level.
up.
Yeah, so the next level, then you get into 10U, which is the 10 and under, which is like your 10 and 9-year-olds, right? And the same type of concept there, where you have your ADM, okay, and then you have your travel. For the travel at the 10U level and the 12U level and the 14 level, those are teams that you would try out for. So it's a higher level of competition. One thing that we've done over the last 2 years is we've made a third category, and the third category is we consider a developmental travel player. It's a player that was sort of like on that cusp of making it, not making the travel team. That player will continue to practice with the travel team. At home games, we'll actually roster him so he can go onto the bench, and it'll give that player an opportunity to earn his way into a true travel spot. This is the second year we've done it. In both years, we've had a player that has worked their way, transitioned all the way up, and by the time they got into the last month of the season, they were a full-blown travel player.
It's almost kind of like your version of a redshirting in some degree.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
Yeah,
great.
so that has been very successful. I'm glad it's working the way that it is.
So you go up to basically 14U then? Is that
Yeah,
kind of
so the program is ultimately what we would like to have happen is to grow the program to the point where we're 8U through 18U.
Right.
Obviously, when you get past 14U, that would be a little bit of a challenge and some conflict with Meadville hockey.
Right.
But there's probably ways that we could partner to do that. But right now, what we offer is 8U, 10U, 12U. We're bringing 14U back. We have a phenomenal coach that's come on board. You guys probably know the name Ryan Claspy. I would put him against any coach in the region. Solid guy, solid coach. So we're looking to bring the 14U team back to Crawford County. So we're real excited about that. And as we continue to grow at that lower level, for example, I mentioned the Learn to Skate program. Aaron already has over 50 kids signed up for that program already. So we're starting to see the things that we've put in place over the last, it's a slow battleship to turn.
Yep.
It's quick to go one way, but slow to turn another way. So we're starting to see the fruits of those labors come forward.
Right, develop, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember a couple times when DJ was growing up, there's always that one parent is looking for something to do. I think Jay Jablonski, I think was a name, and of course Kevin Pipp, of course, kept Mr. Develop everything. And these are guys who are just, and of course Carpy had some people here at the rink, but so if someone's out there saying, hey, I'm into this, I'm you, I just moved in, I'm looking to do, maybe I want to get interested or something. So how would someone say, hey, look, I'd like to do some coaching, or I'd like to be involved? What would be the best way for that person? Who would they contact, and what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, great question. They can contact anybody.
Excuse me. Of course it was a
You owe me $5. Yeah, we're always looking to bring in volunteers, coaches, board members. The best way to get involved is to reach out to one of the board members, or if you don't, my name and number seems to be plastered everywhere,
Right.
so you can always get a hold of me. Aaron Rekich, if you reach out to Aaron here at the Mark, he'll get you to us.
There's a website.
Yes, there's a website. We're in the process of updating the website, so I would say come April it'll be a little more informative, but yes.
Okay, so they can because oddly enough, somebody's like, I don't know, should I, and then all of a sudden they're like, maybe I go. So there's always those people out there for sure.
And the website is
Yes, right here.
CCYHA.net.
Yeah,
And
very
it
good.
routes you through Sports Engine, so yeah.
That's good. And so, of course, like everything else, and it's just the day we live in, is there's a process for that. So if a new person comes in and says, I want to coach, I mean, there's probably like classes they got to attend. There's just like, there's child things.
Absolutely. You
There's
gotta
all
have-
this stuff, right?
Yeah, we follow, we're part of USA Hockey.
Right,
We're in the Mid-Am
right.
region. And we follow all their guidelines, rules, regulations, process, protocols, you name it, we follow it. And they have spelled that out for us. So typically our process when bringing in a travel coach or a coach that's going to kind of run the 8U program type thing. The reason why I mention that because we're going to pull you right in next year. But we start that process for looking at coaching, I would say resumes or applications, really in January, so that we can make a decision as we come into the first of the year, so we're teeing everything up. That's not to say that a volunteer coach or somebody couldn't get involved mid-season.
Right.
All we need to do is do the clearances and get you USA Hockey
Right,
approved.
right. Now, when I was involved way back when, again, it's, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, it seemed like CCYHA had their own in-house referee group, and I don't know if that's still the case, or so how do you get referees for these games? What are their organizations? Can you elaborate on some of that? We even had a director of refs.
We do. We have a director of officials. That's
Yeah.
Rick Borgeson. And Rick is actually going for another term, so I'll have him for 2 more years.
Okay.
For years, they did exactly what you just described. We had our own in-house officiating crew that we built. And then it got to be complicated, and at some point they started contracting with CCYHA. Okay.
Yeah.
And CCYHA has been struggling with officials, getting officials, recruiting officials, and more, importantly to us is that because we're tucked in here in Crawford County, they were having a hard time finding officials that wanted to come to Crawford County, is what their feedback was.
Right.
So we kind of struggled with them this year in terms of getting our contract negotiated and completed, and we eventually reached an agreement. And they have done a pretty good job of filling all of our games, but we do run into blips along the way. So one of the things that we are trying to do is get more kids, more people involved, interested in officiating. We just hosted a USA Hockey classes to be approved for use to be an official, and we'll be hosting another one, I believe, in August to help people get their certifications and whatnot. So we're doing more and more with building our own homegrown officiating crew. For example, for our 8U jamborees that I mentioned earlier, those currently are being officiated by our players that are in 12U that went on and got their USA Hockey officiating credentials.
Good.
So we're going to continue to work and build that so we have our own stable of officials.
Yeah, that's great.
The Mahoney's boys have been very instrumental in that as well.
Yeah, there's a slew of them, isn't there?
Keep coming. They got their own line, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so what else? I mean, what, anything else you need to throw out there? Anything and everything with regards,
I could talk all day long about
what else you wanna
CCYHA,
talk about?
But, I think the one thing that I'd like to put out there is that our tryouts, and I had to write them down because I'll forget.
No.
Our tryouts for our travel programs, the 10U tryouts, it's a three session tryout. So they'll start on April 4th, which is Monday, April 6th, Wednesday, and April 7th, which is a Thursday. The 12U tryouts will be April 4th, 5th, and 7th as well. And then the U14 tryouts will be April 5th. It's a 2-hour session. The one thing I'll share there is if you are a 14U goalie, I know they are seeking a goalie, so get down here, try out. You'll have an opportunity to play under what I would call one of the best coaches around in this region. So.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. And so is there a slew of coaches on the ice for that? I mean, you know, sometimes there's a lot of different philosophies. Sometimes there's the eye in the sky. You know, I think when people went to mid-amp stuff, you know, there was always a couple coaches up here, and then there was always some other people on the ice. So how do you kind of work that?
I leave that to the coaches to sort of determine how they run their tryouts. Typically what they do is they'll have several coaches on ice, and then they'll have a few up in the eye in the sky, if you will, in the box. And then also keep in mind, here at the Mark, we have live barns, so everything that takes place on the ice is recorded, so they can go back and look at the tape as well.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. Talk a little bit about game day off the ice officials. Like, is it hard to get parents to do like the penalty box and the scorekeeping? I know the clock can sometimes, you know, be a nightmare with regards to penalty time and stacking things. I mean, is that a problem?
In the beginning of the season, it can be because, you know, and nobody wants to touch that clock or do the scoreboard. And we're very blessed in that we have, I would refer to her as the queen of Crawford County Youth Hockey, which is Lisa Benninger. And she seems to take people under the wing and coach them up and talk them through that. But yeah, for every home game, we're always looking for, you know, the off ice officials.
Right.
In order for you to be in the box, you have to be, you have to have your credentials and your clearances.
Right.
To be on the bench itself, you have to be a roster coach. As I mentioned earlier, and then to run the scoreboard, you just have to understand how to run the clock and keep the stats. So we're always looking for people to do that, especially we have a couple tournaments coming up. So we're reaching out internally to our CCYHA families for help there as well. You'll probably see me behind there, and that's when you hear some of the parents outraged because the clock wasn't turned on or something.
All right. Now the blue pucks. They're what age for the blue pucks?
8U.
8U. Just 8U.
Just 8U.
Okay. Yeah. Do you like that idea?
I don't have an opinion.
You know, it doesn't matter anyway.
Nah.
I'm just curious.
They're just a little bit lighter. It enables them to move the puck around a little bit.
Yeah,
easier.
no. Some people are like, you know, it's not real laggy.
You know, honestly, at that age, I'm less worried about what the weight of the puck is, and I'm more worried about making sure the kids are skating. And that was one thing that when I got involved in talking to the coaches, they would always, you mentioned Kevin Pipp earlier, they would reference Kevin Pipp, and then they would talk about how Kevin was so focused on power skating and he didn't want to see a puck until November. And we sort of started to get back to that kind of culture where we work the kids, we really focus on power skating, agility, skating. We were not going to lose a game because we got outskated.
Right. Just one recommendation that I have, I mean, you know, you talk to your coaches, you know, you can run the organization however you want, but after your team's picked, I would have like a team meeting or a team, like all the parents, and I would line them up and teach them how to tie a skate from this side. I come out of a Pee-wee travel game. I was like, Mr. Gravy, can you tie my skate? It was me, Mr. Harbaugh, and Claspy.
Yep.
Tie a skate.
Yes, especially at that age.
And you're upside down and backwards.
Listen,
upside down and backwards.
My son's a 12U, and I'm still out there tightening the skates up.
I know. Who was it?
Come out, your fingers are all cramped up because you're tired. Yeah, I got you.
Who were the Sutter brothers? Rumor has it, like, when they were kids, there were like 6 of them, I think. Weren't there like 6 Sutter brothers?
There's a lot.
Yeah, and they're like, they were like, Dad was like, no, you want to play hockey? You tie your own skates. So
Yeah,
Brett and Jan, but anyway.
Am I allowed to ask a dumb question?
No, there's no dumb question.
No dumb
always.
question.
There's
So-
no
I'll
dumb,
probably give you a dumb
there's
answer.
no dumb, there's no dumb
So
question.
how do you figure out what's the right sport for your kid? I mean, Meadville's, to me, that's the whole point of, I mean, me asking you before about the rec complex is there's more sports for the same size towns in Meadville than there are for, every other town around. How do you pick the right one for your kid?
Try them all. Try them all. I would encourage anybody to try hockey, try football, basketball. There's a lot of crossover in all those sports. Lacrosse. My son, we've had him in soccer. Obviously he's in hockey. We're going to try lacrosse this year. He's done some swimming. I would recommend trying them all. USA Hockey really supports that and drives that concept as well.
That little Penguins program, is there a number limit? I mean, there's only going to be so many, because I mean, they get a whole bag of uniforms and stuff, don't they? Don't they get like gear? Like a
They
bag?
do get gear. The Little Pens program, they will still get full gear. I don't know if there's a limit on the number of kids that can participate. I do know that there is a time frame in which you can sign up.
Yeah.
And if you miss the sign up,
Yeah.
you're out.
And the reason why I ask that is, to Dwayne's point, like, how do you know what your kid's going to do? And then back to your point, try them all. I know back in the day, like, and even me, myself, I was like, am I going to get all the stuff for snow skiing, or am I going to play hockey? There wasn't like a program where someone like gave me the gear. So if there's a kid, I know there were some players, I mean, guys my age and even guys I work with saying they couldn't play because they couldn't afford to have the gear.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but you have another great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
No, so the point being is though, the point is that thank God for Sidney Crosby, and thank goodness for reaching out to him, because now my point is you're giving kids an opportunity that may not never had that opportunity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing.
From a cost standpoint, we were talking about this earlier. Equipment should never be an issue for a youth player
Right.
not to try hockey. There's a lot
yeah,
of equipment floating around.
Right.
The Mark, we have some in the shed.
Right.
A lot of that's for your
Right.
younger kids,
I agree.
especially
Yeah.
at the AU level.
Right.
But there's a lot of pads and things just right over here in the closet that we can get somebody out there on the ice to get them rolling.
Right.
Plus, we have rental skates if we had
Sure.
had to utilize that. I would never let that deter. We'll figure that out and help you get there. The other piece of that too is from a cost of the program standpoint. I can't sit here and give you what our numbers are.
No,
because
no,
we're going
no.
through the budgets.
No,
and,
no, right, no,
I got to
right.
see. We need some forecasting. But basically, what we have found is we really strive to increase our value and control our costs.
Sure.
And when I first came on board, my focus was to drive costs down, and I quickly learned that it wasn't necessarily about driving the cost down, it was to continue to increase the value of what you were getting.
Yeah.
When you look at the hockey seasons, they run, if you're an 8U kid, right, they're going to start September and they're going to go all the way through the month of March. So there's 7 months that you're going to have. Typically, our fees, and depending on what level you're at, they're going to be somewhere in that $60 to $70 a month when you break it down by month. So it is affordable
Sure.
from that perspective.
Right.
And, so when you compare that to other sports,
Right.
it's not too out of line. My daughter actually is an equestrian. She does.
Yeah.
That's an expensive sport. I know I don't own a horse, and I never will.
Yeah, no, that's expensive. I know. Every time I came home, my mom always said, "Why don't you take up tennis?" Because I'm hanging up, this and this and this and sticks and bags. I'm banging the wall. I come in the house. I'm home. Sticks on the wall. Anyway,
But she is our cross country runner in the family, and she definitely, obviously, she got that from me.
Yeah. So anything else? This is your hour right now. You can talk about whatever. What else do we need to talk about?
No, I think we kind of hit it on all. I think the biggest thing that I would kind of leave behind is that, the purpose of CCYHA is, from the beginning, has always been to be sort of an all-inclusive program. We're looking to bring in kids not just from Meadville, but from all over Crawford County and the surrounding area. We try to create our programs to promote interest at different points and levels and skill sets. And so give it a shot. We're looking to grow. And I thank you for your time.
Yeah, not a problem. Dwayne, any follow-up real quick?
No, I appreciate what you had to say. I'm thinking about myself growing up as a kid, and like started off with football and baseball and
Yeah.
basketball, and it's like, okay, I had a couple broken bones in football, so I kind of moved to
Right.
cross country and track to get me in shape for basketball season because
Yeah.
I was always taller, and so it worked out. So I appreciate what you said. Yeah, that was.
You know what we could do for you is over time we've developed Aaron has developed a adult hockey pickup league, Monday and Wednesdays nights. We can suit you up and get you out there.
No comment. It sounds like on that one.
DJ, any final thoughts?
No, I just not really much other than just appreciate what you're doing.
For
Certainly,
sure.
I can't appreciate enough of what hockey did for me and obviously our area, and certainly my time is coming to give back at some point. Hopefully, for CCYHA and my ability to give that time, that hopefully my son's involved because that'll certainly go over
Can't wait.
a lot better with the missus. So I just appreciate everything you're doing, and it's not necessarily an easy, and it's certainly a thankless job. Never had it specifically, but I can only imagine. So I appreciate everything you're doing.
We have great families.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it as well. I appreciate your time coming on because, I did spend time on the board. I wasn't a director at large. I was a director of coaches or for officials forever, it seemed like, and then I was vice president for a while. So I know what goes on behind that, and it's I'm not going to say it's not thankless because I do people think appreciate it, but it's a lot of work, and it's people like you that need to keep it going, and you can feel your desire into it. So we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate you having
Good
me.
deal. Hey, with that, we'll go to our next break, and we'll be back for our last segment here at Good Sports: The Next Generation. Grab yourself a cold beverage. We'll be back. Hey everybody, welcome back to our last segment here at Good Sports: The Next Generation. And according to Dwayne, the human calendar, the plethora of useless knowledge, and the almanac of senseless trivia, he alerted us to the fact that we didn't have a show since May. And I believe you're right, according to our records.
I think it was May. I think when we were
It's
here
funny,
the
we
last
should
time.
be, I think you're right. Anyway, so we got DJ here too. So now we're going to do some local stuff. And I handed out assignments this time for the boys, so they have to come prepared. This wasn't just a regular comeback show. This was a comeback show with vengeance. So basically, I just want to put my hats off on some local people. I know the wrestling team is doing really well. I think Sagertown actually beat Reynolds in the team duels like way back when. So, and they've got a couple people going to sectionals. Cochranton does as well. So I believe Maplewood might have somebody in there. So some of the local kids, the wrestling are doing pretty good. I know girls basketball is still at it. So, don't be afraid to support some of these local events and local teams. Now with that, we're gonna get to Wayne here in a little bit, but now I'm gonna switch over here to DJ, and I just want to get. I know the Beeville Bulldogs have a short season left. They got maybe 1 or 2 games, and then they're heading to the playoffs. Can you kind of give us a little wrap up about?
Yeah, the Hockey Bulldogs.
Hockey Bulldogs.
Yep, yeah, the hockey team
Thank you.
they're getting ready to be wrapped up their season. They got a game left in their season next Monday. That's going to be February 28th. That's actually away. They're going to play Thomas Jefferson, who's one of the top teams in the league. Bulldogs have solidified themselves in the 3rd spot in their division. So there are 2 divisions, and they'll take the top 4 in each division. And the 1 seed will play the 4 seed, and 2 seed will play the 3rd seed from the other opposite side, and then vice versa. So the Bulldogs are locked into that 3rd seed, so they're going to be on the road for sure. On the other division side, they've got Penn Trafford and Armstrong are basically battling for the 2nd spot in that side of the division. So they will play whoever ends up getting in that 2nd seed. Right now, it is Armstrong is the one that's in there, but Armstrong is done. They actually lost their last game to a 500 team who's also fighting themselves into the playoffs. So they are done. They are 1 point ahead of Penn Trafford. Penn Trafford has 1 game left, who's also battling another 500 team trying to get into that 4 spot. So a little bit undecided. They will probably, Penn Trafford will just need to at least get a tie or at least get themselves to overtime to be able to get 1 point because they think they have the tiebreaker on Armstrong. So undecided yet for the Bulldogs on their next round and who they're going to play. But they do have 1 division game left in Thomas Jefferson. Be somewhat of a warm-up. Probably doesn't matter for either team. Thomas Jefferson's got the 1st seed locked up in our division the Bulldogs are playing in. So not going to matter much After that, I would imagine early March. Bulldogs, I'm sure you'll see it in the paper. Check your local listings on when that game's going to be, but it will be either in Armstrong, which is down by Katanning, or in Penn Trafford, which is a little bit closer to, I think, Cranberry area, I believe. So they're going to be playing one of those two teams. A little bit of history there. The Bulldogs have played both of them. They played Armstrong on the road, and they did lose here recently, probably about 3 weeks ago or so, certainly this half of the season. They did host Penn Trafford, and they beat them 6-2, the Bulldogs did. But Penn Trafford was missing their top goal scorer. I forget his name, Ben something. I think he was playing on a travel game that day. They won 6-2, as I mentioned. So a little bit of difference. Bulldogs can certainly attest to missing their number one goal scorer, as they did a couple times with Mr. Mahoney with Mars. And ended up losing. So stay tuned there. A little bit of a battle left in some of the other teams and where the Bulldogs are going to play their first round. And they will then probably be in the side of the bracket that ultimately they'll beat Thomas Jefferson if they were to end up winning their game. They would probably play Thomas Jefferson. So hopefully that's a preview for a second round game if the Bulldogs were successful in their first round.
Yeah, very good. So we're looking at our division: TJ, South Fayette, Meadville, and Butler.
That's correct. Butler is. I don't think they actually got locked up in the 4 seed. I think they actually still have a little bit of fighting. As of right now, there is a chance that the next team could technically catch them, but most likely it'll be Butler.
And Franklin Regional, Penn Trafford, Armstrong, and
that is the big opening there. There's actually 3 teams there between Hempfield, Shaler, and then I think there's one other team in there that they all are 1 point away from each other, and they all got some games left. So there's a big battle there for who's going to play Thomas Jefferson.
I love these nail biters.
Yep.
All right, well, appreciate it. Good wrap up. You get an A for your report. That was very well done, DJ Credit. Now we're going to go to Dwayne. Dwayne, I gave you extra duty today. First of all, we got to talk about all your hunting stuff.
Can I talk about one thing first before that? Dave Carr and I, we went to Sagertown here a few weeks back and covered a wrestling match.
Yeah, please do. Yeah,
it was girls wrestling, and that was the first time. That was the first time ever for anything like that. It was the Crawford County team, which had some Meadville girls, some Sagertown girls, some Cambridge, etc. They all kind of wrestled the team against Cannonsburg.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And they did great, and it's awesome to see that actually that sport going. It was really fun to watch. And it was great to see the local girls. I think they won all but like 2 or 3 of the matches or whatever. They did a great job.
That's wonderful.
So that's
I'm glad you brought that.
That's super to see the sport expanding. You know,
absolutely.
Anybody who wants to do it.
That's expanded at the top level. There's Olympics for that, is there not? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah. The U.S. ladies hockey won the silver medal at the Olympics this year. So that was, they've won a couple golds I think in the past, but they
they
were
right there. First goal was 4 years ago. Yeah.
I think it was like they were within 1 goal coming to another gold here. They lost 4 to 3 or 3 to 2 or something.
Yeah, I didn't catch the final score. But
Finland won the gold for the male. Just so you want to know that. Anyway, you need to talk about 2 things. One, all your hunting stuff, but we need to know what's going on with the pool roof.
So
and people are wanting to know.
Big storm here in January, unfortunately, ripped the roof apart over the pool here at the rec complex. I've been on the board. I was back on the board years ago, as I mentioned to Matt, and have been back on here for 5 or 6 years. And they asked me to be president here a couple of years back, which been happy to be that. So I've gotten called by the newspaper and by the TV channels and everything, asking about this project. The storm that came through, which everybody remembers, and we had very an assortment of small snowstorms that had come through earlier in the late fall and in the beginning of it. But that one that hammered us was like 16 inches of snow, blew the roof out over the pool. And that roof was put on 19 years ago, and it was expected to last 25 years. So actually a year or so ago, they'd gotten a proposal to replace it because it's like, okay, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever. And the big question was, well, is the insurance going to cover this or not? And there was some talk about, well, maybe we should take that whole roof off and replace it with a permanent roof. And the engineers came by and said, now if you do that, you're going to have to tear all the walls out and put new walls in because they aren't strong. The walls now open up with like garage doors, so they can be open in the summertime. that's not strong enough to hold a permanent roof. You're going to have to totally rebuild the whole thing. So that's millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So I think we're at the point now where everything's getting settled. I believe it's going to be the beginning of March whenever the replacement is going to start. And thank goodness Allegheny College was agreed to let the swim team do their matches, do their practices up at Allegheny College. And that same thing had happened the other way around. Allegheny was able to do some things back here whenever they were having some issues back a few years back. So that was a great thing. The rec complex is a community asset. It's not, someone put this little thing in the paper, on a common thing in the paper about, it just bugged me. The rec complex is not a profit thing. It's not, nobody profits from it. It's a community asset. It's something that as we talked with Matt about earlier, it's a town the size of Meadville typically doesn't have something like this.
Right.
This facility, it's got the pool, it's got the ice rink, it's got the tennis court, it's got the summer baseball field, it's got the cross country. You can do curling, you can do pickleball. Frisbee golf, et cetera, et cetera. I'm probably missing half the stuff. There's a garden outside that people can rent, a space for their garden. Yes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. More and more. This is a beautiful community asset, and yes, the city contributes to it. Westmead contributes to it. Vernon contributes to it, because it's their park system. When I was a kid, when I was in college, I worked for the summer park program, coaching basketball. That doesn't exist anymore. That summer park program doesn't exist anymore. Now it's here. So and this is a wonderful thing. So the repair is starting in early March, and it should be done in about 3 weeks. So I'm happy to see that. Yes, it was the second storm ripped it up even more. Actually, the second storm 2 weeks later. When you came in tonight, you noticed that it was the first time it just had ripped a couple of the segments.
Yeah, well, second had that wind.
Thank goodness the structure is intact. I climbed up in there with Roger Gilday. We climbed up in there with the guy from the insurance company, the engineer from the insurance company, and I'd never actually climbed up in anything like that before. But it's all there's all kind of cables and tension things, and that stuff's all intact. The inside layer is intact. It was just the outside layer that got blown up by that storm. So, you saw on the news,
Sure.
The thing in Erie, the soccer field thing, the indoor soccer field thing, it got wiped out by the same storm. So this wasn't like we had just neglected the thing and hadn't taken care of it or whatever. That was a bad storm. And anyways, thank goodness it's going to be moving forward. So everything should be back to normal.
And that's what you have insurance for, right?
That's why you have insurance. And I want to thank the insurance company too, is they are going to cover for the lost revenue since the pool's been shut down already for about a month. They're going to cover the lost revenue, because the pool, we've had to continue to keep it heated, we've had to continue to keep the staff in there to keep it maintained. But if you let people in and something did happen and someone got hurt or whatever,
liability.
You can't imagine what the liability situation would be with that. So the pool had to be shut down. But it can't be closed down because, stuff would freeze and break, and, so instead of $200,000 repair, it's probably going to be twice that much, if you end up with, all the stuff getting frozen and messed up or whatever, because the pool's it's not a shut it down for the wintertime thing. That's when the pool season is, that's when the competition team, goes on, is in the wintertime, so.
5 minutes, talk to me about your hunting.
Okay. So,
Talk to them about hunting, I'm just listening.
the episode that's playing right now is the French Creek is the official Pennsylvania River of the Year.
I heard that.
A community
Did you hear
treasure.
that?
A community treasure. So that's the episode. So
River
make sure you
of
watch
the-
that. And if you missed it, on Armstrong, watch it on YouTube. This summer we're going to do another float down, and that's going to be. I think that's going to be a blast. I brought this along to show. So this is a wearable camera. It clips on the lid of your hat, and then so you don't have to. Your hands don't get tied up, and so you can actually, this will be actually all the stuff we're talking about.
I like it.
It's called a lid cam, and like I said, it clips on the lid of your hat. So I wanted to talk about the episode that we're just getting ready for right now. Top half of the newspaper here, the new field of battle here. So the episode that we just filmed with this was the Veterans Hunt. So there's a local group, they call it the Freedom Hunters, and they assemble a pheasant hunt for local veterans. And well, actually, any veteran that wants to come. And initially it was for just disabled veterans, but they've allowed other veterans to come in too. There were 150 pheasants. The veterans didn't have to pay a penny. 150 pheasants were contributed, and I think 30 or 40 chuckers were contributed. And it was probably the worst weather thing I've ever done on the outdoor show, being outside. It was 15 degrees and there was 40-mile-an-hour winds and the snow was blowing all over the place. But anyways, this camera, we got some good footage of the guys having a great time, and I interviewed several of the people that were involved in putting the whole thing together. So make sure you watch that one. That one's a blast. And then this summer coming up, we're going to have a second French Creek, the River of the Year for Pennsylvania. We're going to have a trip down the river with. Actually, I think Lisa, our celebrity chef Lisa, is going to go along. When she was back in her teaching days, when she was doing science classes, she focused a lot on the waterways, and so that's something that she's very interested in and knows an awful lot about. So Brenda Costa from the French Creek Conservancy, she's going to come along, and Lisa. And so I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a blast.
Good.
And
That's
so,
excellent.
So, anyways, make sure you watch Crawford County Outdoors.
That's it. All right, good. Yeah, so I guess we're kind of, we got a good show. We filled all the full our time slot. We'll start with you, DJ. Any final thoughts? Anything at all?
No, I mean, it was really nice to see. I mean, as you guys will, I don't think the snow will be covering up the grass. It's nice to see some green grass out there finally. We haven't seen it since, January. I guess it seemed like we got pounded there right after the first of the year. So green grass means the golf season's right around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I'm going, as I always like to punt as well. So it's nice to see that, and good to hopefully get out there soon once the ground firms up a little bit and we get a little bit warmer. So looking to hit the white thing around there a little bit.
That sounds like fun. That's a good idea. Dwayne, thanks for all your efforts over there with the pool and the board. The mark, being here on the board on the mark, as opposed to not doing anything else. I appreciate you keeping your hammer on that, because I know a lot of people like that pool. That's a big asset.
Our
Our
board is on top of it. They are not letting that thing go.
That's
good. We've had a bunch of extra meetings and met with the engineers and met with the contractor and met with the insurance company, met with the lawyers and everybody else. So it's important.
It's a good thing. Well, with that, I'll say for DJ Craven and Dwayne and myself, and thank you to Matt Barrett for showing up again. This is Dan Craven for another good show, wrapping it up. And with that said, good night, everybody.